All right, so JJK is officially over, and it is time to have a discussion about our favorite blue-eyed, white-haired god Gojo. And I think it's an issue, especially now that the manga is over, and the fact that we got no closure in regards to Gojo, to talk about an issue that Jujutsu Kaisen has essentially had since, I would say, Shibuya. And that is, it never grew past Gojo. And what I mean by that is, and I'm actually going to use two other characters from two separate works. The first is going to be the Gojo prototype, Kakashi Hatake. And then the second one is going to be the all-around god that is Escanor from Seven Deadly Sins. When you introduce a character like Gojo, the mentor character who is just absurdly strong, that character is only supposed to be super diesel during the first half of the story. And I feel as though for JJK, everything leading up to Shibuya is the first half of the story. Shibuya is the final close. It is where Yuji finally puts his demon to bed when he finally kills Mahito. It is the evolution of all the characters taking one step forward in their progression that should have put them on the same level of Gojo. When you take a step back and you look at a character like Kakashi, Kakashi is extremely wildly overpowered during Naruto, just regular Naruto before we get into Shippuden. In regards to Kakashi's character, everyone glazes him. 1000 technique Kakashi, the copy wheel ninja Kakashi, Kakashi of the Sharingan. He has so many titles that when other Jonin encounter him outside in the space, they are instantaneously shook as to why exactly he's here. That works for the first half of your story. But, and I'm going to jump into Escanor and how they could have used Gojo as an Escanor character a little bit later. But for JJK, we never get that. Gojo is always number one. He is always at the top of the verse, with the only other person in the verse that is supposed to be an even match for him being the main villain of the verse in the form of Sukuna. Now, that is not an issue if we were using Gojo correctly. And what I mean by that is, in Shibuya, I feel as though there was a perfect, fantastic chance to allow the characters to grow a whole lot more leading into the Culling Games. And what I mean by that is, when he gets captured and put into the prison realm, I feel like that is where Gojo should have essentially stayed, where he should have remained in the prison realm the entire time. And then the events of the Culling Games should have been what elevated the other characters to become powerful enough in their jujutsu in order to combat Sukuna. And then Gojo's return should have been a direct confrontation with Sukuna that basically ended you could say either ended the manga or propel the manga into maybe a part 2, where there were a lot of fan theories going around that Gojo may end up being something along the lines of a villain if they ever decided to do a second part, where his decision to basically stay out of the Culling Games and remain inside of the prison realm was basically the evolution of Geto's philosophy in regards to how he viewed sorcerers and humanity, and Gojo finally going over to the side of thinking that Geto essentially had in elevating sorcerers by using the Culling Games to basically either force people to become sorcerers, unlocking their ability to see the other side, and then also using the curses that are born to basically wipe out. I'm telling you, like, when you sit down and you look at the discussions that are essentially had in regards to theories for JJK with the crumbs that Gege basically put down in the manga, you're like, holy shit, there's so many directions that this could have went in. and why exactly did we opt to go in this direction instead? But taking a step back, as I said before, there's the Kakashi variant. The Kakashi variant is extremely strong in the first half, on equal footing with the main characters in the second part. But when we go into the third and final act, the character is no longer as powerful as the main characters that the story essentially focuses on and has been building up since the beginning. And we don't get that in regards to Yuji's character. It never feels as though Yuji has in some way, shape, or form surpassed Gojo. It always feels as though Yuji exists in the shadow of Gojo, that Gojo just casts this, literally, his shadow is infinite across the entire verse because of the way in which not only the laws of the verse kind of bent when he was born, but also by the way in which most of the other characters and special grade curses treat him in regards to the verse as well. Now, here's the thing. I feel as though we should have taken a step back and Gojo's approach should have been more along the lines of Escanor's, where in combat, he is just wildly overpowered. However, there is some type of drawback that makes it so that he is not infinitely overpowered. And when you think of a character like Escanor, you think of his power Sunshine and the idea behind High Noon, where as the morning progresses, he hits his zenith, and then as the sun wanes, he goes down in regards to power, where at nighttime he is weak unless there is a special occasion where he can tap into 100% of his power for a few seconds, and then he goes back to being just a regular dude by the morning. Same thing should have been for Gojo. The idea behind Six Eyes, the idea behind Infinity, the idea behind Endless Void, all of that type of stuff, there should have been a drawback in regards to his character, where if he's running both Infinity and Six Eyes to basically spam fucking hollow purples left and right, it takes a drain on his mental state where he's not able to basically maintain Six Eyes, and it messes up the flow of Infinity and makes him vulnerable. Where if he decides to spam and use Endless Void, he runs into a situation where he basically becomes mentally fatigued and he may run out of using Six Eyes, or the decision to basically run Endless Void causes Infinity to essentially deactivate, which causes a situation where if a character is immune to Endless Void or able to fight him in Endless Void, they are able to essentially get around it. Essentially what I'm saying here is Gege wrote himself into a corner in regards to Gojo. He made Gojo way too fucking strong off the bat. On paper, all of his skills were S tier with no drawbacks in any way, shape, or form that made him damn near close to at least being just a wee bit human. He was always at the top of the verse, and that never changed. Even when Sukuna beat him, due to the fact that we got JJK Zero in the form of a movie, and we see him die. Like we see when Toji stabbed him through the back, through his spine, and then stabbed him in the head and killed him. And he was essentially able to just heal himself. And then towards the end of the manga, we end up in a situation again where his body is fully healed with no scars after being cut in half by Sukuna. And then his body is basically abandoned by Yuta and just up and fucking disappears. It's like, well, due to the context clues that you've laid down through the entirety of your work, there's no reason why his character shouldn't be able to come back. And that is the frustrating bit, which is you have this superpowered character that has shown that he can cheat death, simply dying with no explanation whatsoever, with no second given to explain why he's going to remain dead, or no closure given to say that no, he's not going to come back because he actually did spiritually die or something along those lines, and he just vanishes from the verse. That causes confusion. That causes frustration. It's the equivalent of Saitama fighting a superpowered enemy, the enemy getting a really lucky hit in on Saitama. All you see is his arm being left behind. Then you never see Saitama again. And then the new character is like Bang or something along those lines. Or what's his name? Saitama's number 2. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the machine dude, that he basically takes over the manga and continues on, and then towards the end of it he never mentions Saitama ever again, and then the entire story just wraps up and ends. It's poor writing. It is bad writing, but the bad writing was laid in the beginning due to the fact that Gojo was never treated like a sensei type character would be treated, and he was also never treated like a powerhouse type character would be treated. The problem was, from the beginning, that Gojo was written as a main character. Not only was he written as a main character, he was also supplemented, what I would say, with 3 other main characters in the form of Yuji, Sukuna, and I would even say towards the end, Yuta also being a main character as well. And that is horrible. You should always focus on one character, that character's growth, and then at some point in time have a passing of the torch. We saw the passing of the torch in Naruto when Kakashi basically dies when Pain invades Konoha, and there's a passing of a torch where Naruto gets acknowledged by everyone. That is the point where you acknowledge the fact that, okay, Naruto has now moved beyond his sensei and he's fighting people that are outside of Kakashi's depths. When you see a character like Escanor, where he's taking on these super powered characters, but he's working on a time limit, you're like, okay, he has to beat this person now because in about an hour, he's not going to be strong enough to defeat this person. There are drawbacks to infinite strength. Gojo did not have any of those. There wasn't any drawbacks to Gojo's character. He just got killed really, really poorly and then shoved off to the side. And we basically pretended as though, you know, well, you know, he's dead. He's not coming back, without any actual closure or a closing of his chapter in any way, shape, or form. But let me know what you guys think about JJK. If JJK has basically maintained a major fucking Gojo problem from the beginning, and Gege just basically wrote himself into a corner and threw up his hands and said, fuck it, this I gotta move past this guy and his infinite slot machine of abilities. Let me know, comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, peace.